Wow, thank you. I've never heard that song before. You always surprise me. It's really hard for me not to have heard songs before. So, yeah, that's great. What's that from?
It's a Susan Werner song.
Wow.
Just from one of her albums.
Yeah.
It's going to get many replays.
Good.
So, we're talking about the values here at Unity of Norwalk, and every week I think, oh, this is a hard one. This, spirituality. I thought then it was Today it was prosperity, and I realized that this is a really difficult one because we all have a different idea of what prosperity is. So, what does Unity of Norwalk say on the website? For our prosperity, we say we demonstrate abundance in all its forms through limitless creativity, positive thinking, and divine action. Well, doesn't that sound wonderful? What happens if we don't have any of those? What happens if we have no creative ideas, which sometimes happens to me? I don't know about you. And positive thinking. I'm really good at positive thinking, but every once in a while, one of those pesky little negative thoughts just get into my mind and start going around like a gerbil or whatever. And divine action. Divine action is always happening, but we don't see it. So I looked up some of these words because just out of curiosity, because AI knows everything, right? Now we have AI, so it's really easy. So what does AI say abundance is? It means a very large or overflowing quantity of something, indicating plentifulness, sufficiency, or even an excess. So it can refer to material wealth or possessions, but also more abstract concepts like the abundance of love, joy, good things in life. So what does limitless mean? Because I thought, you can keep going with AI. So limitless is an unending amount of supply. So if we truly believe there are limitless possibilities in life, you see no limit to what people can achieve. And then there's all this stuff about the aspects of spiritual abundance, inner fulfillment, spiritual growth, gratitude and trust, purpose and connection, generosity, the fruits of the spirit, blah, 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 blah. So look it up in AI if you want to know what all that is. So I try to think about what I think of prosperity, because that word, I've taken, first of all, a lot of prosperity classes. I've read a lot of prosperity books. If it's written, I've read it. Because years ago, many years ago, in another lifetime, I was not experiencing prosperity. In fact, I wasn't even close to it. And I thought in my mind that if I could get stuff, if I had a job and a decent home and a decent car, and I had all that stuff, that I would be okay. Because like most human beings, we look at life from the outside in. If all this is going well, then we're okay. We're in abundance and prosperity when everything in our life is abundance and prosperity. But what if it isn't? So I thought, I just need to get stuff. So I got my life together enough that I had stuff, I had a car that wasn't taped together. I had a Pinto that was literally taped. I had, I had a roof over my head that I could afford. I had a job, which was a big thing for me. And I had like some clothes beside, a pair of jeans and a pair of shorts. I lived in Miami, so you don't need a lot of clothes. And I thought, I had arrived. But what had happened was I hadn't, because what wasn't working was nothing outside of me. It was inside of me. But I was so determined that things had to be good. I came from a home, my father was a salesman. We had good times, we had bad times. I married a person who I thought, my first husband, would give me financial security. He was an accountant. My God, what better job, right? Not. He kept losing jobs. It was not good. And so then I went through my own tough time. So I thought it was important. If I could have financial security, everything would be okay. So I got into a spiritual path, and someone said to me, make a list of everything that you would like your partner to have, qualities. So I thought, okay, I'm going to make a list. I haven't been with someone in a long time, but might as well make up a great list. And one of the first things I put on it was they had to be financially secure. Now, in my mind, I am thinking a great job or very wealthy. That's financial security. I figure either one. I'll take one or the other. So life goes on, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm on my spiritual path and all of that, and I meet somebody. And he has every single thing on my list except, it seems, financial security. He is somebody who was giving away everything. He didn't believe. He had given up work. Everything he did was for service. When I met him, he was working on someone's house, and he was living in their unattached garage, no door, no windows, just screening, no bathrooms. He didn't have a car. He drove a bike because he didn't want to kill any animals with a car. Anyway, it was like he was just as far as you can imagine in my mind to what financial security was. I have to tell you, folks, I learned what financial security was from that person, because I have never in my life met anyone that was that. Because to me, what prosperity is financial security. And what that means is it doesn't matter what we have. It doesn't matter how much stuff we have. It doesn't matter how much love we have. It doesn't matter any of that. What we need is an overabundance and limitless connection with a power greater than ourselves. Because when we have that, everything else gets taken care of. So I saw this person living in a way that most people. Actually, the first time my son came in, Christopher was working, building a fence for me in my backyard, and he thought I had picked up a homeless person, because he had long hair and a long beard, and he kind of did look homeless. And so my son, who is used to me doing some very strange things, thought, oh, there goes my mother picking up a homeless person to do some work for her. Little did he know I was seeing this person. But anyway, so what I learned from him is that it doesn't matter. You see, when we are financially secure, all that stuff, it doesn't matter, because the universe has a way of taking care of us, because we live in an abundant universe. So one of the things that I learned from him, and he did this before I met him, and I think I shared this once, he decided to prove once and for all, either God is or God isn't. Either God is going to take care of him or God is not. So he got on an old bicycle with no ID, no money, no possessions, and began to ride his bicycle from Miami to Washington, D.C. He rode that bicycle the whole time, and every time along the way, something happened. Amazing things were provided. So he was riding his bicycle one day, and he was thinking to himself, I'm really hungry. Lunch would be nice. And he's riding along, and on the side of the road is a little brown bag, like a lunch bag. And he stopped his bike, and he went and looked in the bag, and there in the bag was this sandwich wrapped so lovingly, and a piece of fruit. Now, it probably was some child's lunch who had gotten on a school bus, but it was right there. And so he thanked God. He wanted pizza one day. I figured if I'm going to want something, I want pizza. Who doesn't want pizza? So he stops at a Pizza Hut, and he says to the guy, he goes, I really want a pizza. Do you have any pizzas that you've thrown out that are burnt or whatever? I'll take whatever. I'll wash dishes. And the manager says to him, no, sit down. You can have any kind of pizza you want. You can help yourself to the salad bar. You don't have to wash dishes. And just took care of him. He stopped at someone's house once asking if he could take a pear off their pear tree. They invited him in for dinner. He did not look like the kind of person you would invite in your house for dinner. But what he discovered was the fact that when we have a connection with something greater than ourselves, everything we need comes to us. Whether we believe it or not, if we look back at our lives, like I can remember a time when my Pinto, which was a death trap, but anyway, I was coming down this road in Miami, and I was heading toward a main street, and my brakes gave way. So I'm looking at all this traffic I'm heading for. My car doesn't want to stop. So I thought, well, I'll just go on the grass and maybe I'll stop. Thank God I did. But meanwhile, someone said to me, well, you got to get these brakes fixed. I said, well, I don't have any money to get these brakes fixed. And they said, well, go see so-and-so. So I went to see this guy and I said, I don't have any money for brakes. I'm just going to start walking because I can't drive this car. And the guy fixed my brakes for free. And I could see in my life when things were really bad how there were all these angels that showed up. And they weren't big. I didn't win a lottery. I didn't get $1 million, but I got what I needed. Like one time I owed a bill for $32. And I went to my mailbox and there was a refund check for $32. These things happen. You see, when we realize that God is the source of everything. It isn't the job, it isn't the investment, it isn't Social Security, even though I would hate to see that go away. It isn't any of that, it is God. See, God is the source, and all these things are channels. And they're channels that are created, and we get to see them when we have an open mind. When we have an open mind and trust, things happen. And so even when things are good or bad, it doesn't matter. And the other thing I learned from my husband is to have a sense of humor. So we had our meditation center in Central Florida, and we started out, we were having trouble, and we were running out of money. We had a mortgage, we had electricity, we had all this stuff, and I had a truck that had a payment, and I said to my husband, I go, I don't think we have the money to pay the mortgage. We're going to lose the farm. We called it a farm. It was a farm. I said, we're going to lose the farm, and we're going to lose my truck, and we're going to be homeless. Now, he had been homeless. I had been homeless. It really wasn't that big a deal, but at this point in my life it was, because I had acquired a bunch of stuff, and I wasn't losing it again. And he says to me, well, let's think, what is the worst thing that could happen? I said, well, we lose the place where we live. I lose my truck. And he says, so what? He says, I have a truck. He had a beat-up old truck. He says, I have a truck. And I said, what do we do with all our animals? We had a lot of animals. So he said, well, we'll put the dogs in the truck with us. We'll put the cats in cages, and we'll put them in the back of the truck. He said, and we'll get a long rope, and we'll tie the cows, the goats, the pony, the geese. I mean, we had a lot of animals, and we'll just go down the road until we find a place where we can stay. So all I could do was see myself going in this beat-up old truck with all these animals behind us, and I just started laughing. I couldn't stop laughing. I thought, oh my God, Beverly Hillbillies has nothing on us. We're gonna, they're gonna make a film about us. And so I started laughing, and what happened is the fear went away. See, because fear is a blocker to spirit. When we are afraid and we hold on to stuff we have, we hold on to whatever, there's no way we can receive anything because we're not open to receive anything. So by laughing and realizing that we would still have each other, we would still have all our animals, we still had our health and we would be okay, nothing got resolved that day, right? But I felt better because I knew that somehow something was going to happen and it was going to be okay. I had no idea what was going to happen. 2 weeks later, I go to the mailbox and I get a letter from an attorney saying that this person left us in their will and we got $50,000 and his condo. I I don't even know who this person is. I said to him, who is this person? Who gave us $50,000 and their condo? Well, it was someone who had come to our place. And he had actually come there for meetings. We had some meetings there. And he liked so much what was being done there, and he felt so grateful. He wanted to give this money away, and he couldn't give it to the organization, his 12-step program, because they have a maximum what you can give. And he had this money, and he didn't know where to give it, so he gave it to us. I can't tell you, there's no way I could have seen that. And you see, what happened was, as soon as I let go of the fear, and as soon as I opened myself up to the possibilities of what could be, life has a way of happening. Does it happen always the way we want it? No. Does it happen the way we planned it? No. You know, what is prosperity? What does it look like to you? I mean, you know, there's that old saying of 2 cars in a garage, you know, and a house. Well, years ago, married to my ex-husband, I had 2 cars in the garage. I had a beautiful home in New Jersey. You know, everything was good. And I have to tell you, I was miserable. I was miserable because all of that stuff isn't what matters. What matters is in your heart. See, what Christopher taught me was what was in his heart. His heart was prosperous. His heart was a giver. He would give things away. He literally once, the end of the year, decided to give everything he owned away. He didn't have a lot. He loaded it all up into my car because he didn't have a car. And we went down to where the homeless were in Miami, under one of the bridges. And we opened up the trunk, and he said, you can take everything that's in here. Well, happened to be in the trunk, I worked for an insurance company at the time, was my camera. So some homeless guy started to take my camera. I went, no, you can have everything in the trunk except that camera. Because I had forgotten I had left it in the trunk. So when we have that knowing, that God is always there, we live in an abundant universe, it doesn't matter. We give something away, we get it back. It was just, you can't outgive God. You can't outgive God. He inherited money, he tithed 90% of it and kept 10% for himself. Because he figured, why should I give God 10%? God has given me everything. You know, it's so we understand that. And we realize that we're not losing anything. We can't lose because the one that has given it to us is always there. God is the source. And as long as you remember that, you will always be prosperous. I don't care what the definitions say. Prosperity is in your heart. Prosperity is in your mind. Prosperity is in the way you live. When you live knowing that God is the source, when you live knowing that there is no way you can outgive that source, you will always have everything you need. Maybe not everything you want, like the Rolling Stones said. They had it years ago, but we will get everything we need. So close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath, because, boy, we can think of a lot of things we want. We might even be able to think of some things we think we need. But if we truly need it, we will receive it. Jesus said, knock and it shall be answered. We are children of God. We are filled with the Spirit of that God. And we live in an abundant universe. Jesus said, I have come to live life and live it abundantly, and so have you. When we forget that, and we think that we are limited by stuff, the only thing we are limited by is our thinking. So I invite you to, in your time of prayer, meditation, if you're feeling like there's lack in your life or stuff you really need or think you have to have, to just remember everything you need is already yours. All you need to do is open your mind, open your heart, and open your hands, and it will come. Not maybe as you want it, but as you need it. And so we say, thank you, God. Thank you for this abundant universe that we live in. Thank you for always being there, for having our back, even when we feel like you've forgotten us. And knowing that everything we need is within. For within us is God, and so it is. Amen.